All right, what's going on, my favorite people? This is Eric here with Investor Central Club and Stacks AI Software. Gonna go over and watch a little bit of the closing bell for earnings for today. We've got AMD, Supermicrocomputer, Arista, ALAB. We've got Upstart. Yep, hold on, let me pull this up. We've got Astera Labs, Open Door, Snapchat, Lucid, RIVN, and then tomorrow before open we got Uber, Shopify, Novo Nordisk, Walt Disney, Six Flags, Geo, and McDonald's. I do also believe that Unity should be also reporting, so we'll keep an eye out for those. Just for now, just so you guys know, I was looking over at Stacks a little bit, and I wanted to make sure you guys see it too. AMD earnings coming up. We'll take another peek over, but we did see these unusual puts being bought, and the last few purchases were all puts. We do have some calls coming in that are also short term, so if you're playing the upside, over 80 by the end of this week. Otherwise, if you're playing the downside, these ones I think are a little bit safer, I guess. 822, so they bought a few weeks out. Under 155, those are $2 each. Under 140 is 58, almost 60 cents on those ones. So if you want some exposure on it, those are worth taking a look at in this case. So keep that in mind. Now, keep in mind these are high risk. So again, you got to expect that there's a possibility these could go to zero, but if they do go in your direction, in your favor, they could be, quickly, easily 50 to 100% or more in terms of returns. Uber earnings. We did see these big money calls come in for October. 105 calls, $2.67 million spent on that. Those are about $1.79 on those right there. Shopify as well. Nothing too crazy, but I would say these puts right here, I know they're not highlighted in the gold for big money, but $990,000, so only 10K away from that big money signifier. So 815, so not too far away. Strike of under 118, those are puts. They bought it at 390 each. We'll keep an eye on these as we get closer to the closing bell, especially because these sometimes right before earnings are reported are always good to take a look at. So you'll see AMD, they have continued to purchase some puts over here. If I filter for the buys, you'll also see it is kind of split in terms of just today. So I can go and filter for just today. You'll see there's actually some more calls than puts in terms of the premiums. But the puts volume is, they're more heavily in terms of how many are purchased. So September 19th, those are a little bit safer. Again, when I do earnings plays, if I can get in under $1, and in this situation, you've got a little bit more time, so that it's not a Friday expiration for this week. If it doesn't have to go all the way down to 140, but if it makes a significant move down that direction, we could see these being profitable. But again, 815, 808, what you're looking for are the shorter term expirations. I will say there isn't a complete conviction of what direction it's going in, but I will say in terms of the chart itself and what I see for AMD is that not only is their PE ratio fairly high right now, I feel that they've run up pretty hard in the most recent, since those April tariffs back here. They've run up pretty hard since then. So you could see, we've talked about this already, up 140% from low to high. As of right now, you could say they're up from that about 125%, which is a pretty strong run. Expectations are, I would say, decently high in terms of it. Yes, thank you, Jenny. Love it when you guys come in and comment stacks right away for me. Let me know if you're here. Let me know what you're watching. I will say I've purchased a few of these contracts. The 140 put for the 22nd of this month. But again, I'm, if it's like $180 or so total, if it goes down to zero, that's the risk I'm willing to take. But it very likely, if it does drop, could see some decent, I could say down toward 160 wouldn't be a terrible move, or wouldn't be, would be fairly expected in terms of a drop. Definitely could see if it does break up above 185, it's got to make $10 up there and then break up higher. If they give extremely good guidance, if they are able to, calm some of the fears in terms of how they're somewhat behind compared to names such as NVIDIA, which is the big runner in their space. Yes, SMCI. I will say on SMCI, there's a lot of these, the look of this for a lot of them. Back in April up till now, a lot of names have just run up. So SMCI from down there till here, that's what, 80 something percent, 90% from bottom low to high. Let me get the bottom of that. Okay, 120% if we consider, 130% if we consider all the way up. So from that April low where it dropped, 123% SMCI has run up. Now, PE ratio is not too bad, 31. You also can understand, if you've seen my charts, we've had the market psychology cycle appearing here. Is this truly accumulation? We do have a little bit of a preliminary supply, automatic reactions, secondary tests and all that. So, it is, it's respected that lower trend line. It's in this channel headed up. Now, if I were to look over at stacks right now for SMCI, reset everything. My cat's running on his wheel. This one, puts below 47, only 100K, 104K spent for this Friday. Same with this one, aiming under 54. I think those are pretty reasonable in terms of it. These all came in for today. We do also have some calls aiming for above 65, above 60, above 59. So, consider those premiums. If you want to see just today, we can use this to calculate it. $825,000 in premium for calls, 620,000 premiums for puts, but there are more volume in terms of the puts versus the calls. So this one I'm not as certain about in terms of, I will say semiconductors seem to be struggling a little bit right now. We did see NVTS drop yesterday as well, so that might be a hint as to what might be coming up for some of these names. Oh, we see a RIVN is here. RIVN puts, yeah, RIVN I would definitely say kind of a bearish name here. These, if you got a smaller account, this actually might not be a bad small play. Put $100 toward this, see where it goes. 919, you've got some time. Underneath 11 or underneath $10 would be a decent play in terms of a RIVN put. Are they? I don't think they're making money yet. Is the big thing about them. Let's see real quick. Yeah, RIVN. I mean, they've got. I don't know if you've noticed. I think RIVN is the one where Amazon is working with them. They're still losing money overall. Their net margin's still terrible. So even if they do report good earnings, they still probably, I could definitely see them drop down toward under 11, maybe down toward under 10, but that would be a bit of a stretch at this point. So your previous support range, you always want to make sure you mark those where you have more people buying and selling. I doubt it's going to drop all the way down toward 8. It has started to break out of this downward trend, but it's still struggling down there. So let's see, preliminary supply. I would even say this might be the range of our first push down, our selling climax, our automatic reaction. Yeah, it's not the prettiest name. So yeah, you could definitely take a little gamble on this if you're willing to. But I would say if you're putting that 20 something bucks per option on that and it doesn't head down that direction, let's see. If you were looking at that, yeah, that would be a put down toward under 10. You have till September, what, 19th is it? So that would be the play I would look at. I'm more bearish on this than bullish. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, yeah, even though if they surprise, people are expecting it to lose money to begin with. So unless there's some big announcement for what's coming up for it, I would definitely say probably more bearish than bullish on RIVN. I'm going to share this with my chat real quick too, so give me 1 second. All right. See, there's 11 of you guys watching. Give me a comment in the chat box. Tell me what it is that you're looking at. Comment stacks if you can, so I know you're watching. Love it when you guys are here. Just gonna monitor what's going on with stacks as as we get closer to the closing bell. So that's Rivian, AMD. Like I said, oh, we do have 2.1 mil in calls come in for the 192.5 strike. So that's maybe they know something we don't. $2.10 each for those, expecting it to make a decent move upward. Trading at 175, so that's what, $18, $17 move. Yes, Uber. I did post something for Uber. Uber, these calls came in, look, fairly interesting, 2.67 mil. Well, let's check open. So I will say, for names that are, you could consider open to kind of be like a meme name for right now. It's such a cheap name. It ran up like crazy, Let me pull up the chart too. The short squeeze that we saw for open, it's already back down below it. Now, if they do report solid earnings, they're able to calm some of those fears. I mean, it looks like they've done decent with previous earnings, at least beating out those expectations, but their estimate is still expected to be negative overall. Their net margin is still negative as well. So unless they somehow say, hey, we're making more money than you guys expected. We had people asking, at $3 to $4, hey, should we get in on open? I told you guys, hey, it's going to drop. It's going to drop pretty hard. And that's what the chart looks like already. So stacks right now for open, it's a name I'm going to stay away from, but we don't have anything too significant. The last purchases we saw were buys. I would say if there is, decent news, you could see this squeeze up higher. For 90 cents per share, so $90 per contract, but you have till January. I mean, it's up to you if you're willing to take that risk. But that's only $90,000 that they spent on that. So premiums for this still fairly small. This one where they aimed for over $2, I mean, we've already seen it run up. So this might be that play for the upside. If anything, they're probably up a little bit already so far. I will also probably point out here, look at the IV. IV for all of these, 200 something percent. So, risk is definitely there for a name like open here. So be careful with that, okay? Uber course, CRZ. We did see some Stacks AI prints for cores, CRZ. I will say this definitely looks a little bit more bullish than bearish right now. We do have some decently $18 strike. That's pretty far out for that one. Safety, a decent play here would probably be these ones. $9.19, $15 strike, 88 cents each. Or even these if you want a little bit shorter term, $8.22, 14.5. So remember, earnings, it's all risky for earnings. There's no guarantee of what, like people are always asking, oh, Eric, do you know what direction it's going to go? Man, if I knew what direction everything would go, I'd be a trillionaire right now. Anybody who had a crystal ball to see into the future. Well, what we can do here is we can lean and put that probability more so on our side by getting an idea what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening in the dark pools, what institutional investors are purchasing, because they've got a lot more tools than we have in terms of their analysis, and their inner circle has more information. Now you have to keep in mind, when they sell a call like this, doesn't necessarily mean it's bearish. Okay, they could be getting out of a position, they could be selling covered calls. In this situation, they might have a lot of shares that they're willing to take some of that premium for. IV is not super high for something like this, cores, but I will say, let me double check real quick. CORZ, pull up their chart. They do have earnings coming up, supposed to be Thursday. So here it says supposed to be Thursday, but that could change. They don't have an official time frame for that right there. The thing about CRZ, I'm sure that is why it's on our radar, is because we did see some Stacks AI prints come in back in April. These ones ran up like crazy. You can see they got in at 789. These ones at 1266. These are up probably just a little bit at this point. So, they should be profitable in terms of what the Stacks AI positions got you in. Let me screenshot this for our channel so they can see as well. I'll see if I can find some more definitive times of when they're reporting too. So like I said, if I were to be playing this name, I probably wouldn't go with these $18 calls. Those are extremely high risk. The ones that look a little better to me are these $15 ones, or even the 14.5. All right. Keep in mind, look at premium too. 55K, 53K, 63K. This one's over 100K. These are over 100K. So they're probably a little bit more worthwhile looking at. Let me write this down for people too. 9. Yeah, let's look at ANET. The thing that I remember about ANET, yeah, they do have a Stacks AI print in here from back end of last month. They're fairly pricey. These are probably down right now. It's gone against them, so you might be able to get in at a decent price. 5.44 mil. So let's pull this up too. Let's just double check what they say on Webull. Alright, so I'll pull up Webull. We look at ANET. They got in 1121. 140. So 1121, 140. Open interest still at 8,480. They purchased 8,000 of them. So that's probably them. There's probably very likely still in on this position. It's down to about 5 to 6, a little under $6 each. So they are down 80 cents each, almost $1. IV is at 48%, not terrible. So, I mean, yeah, they bought a little bit further out there. We'll keep an eye on that too. That should be reporting, yeah, should be reporting later today. Yeah, ANET, ALAB, Snapchat. Snapchat calls, Snapchat puts. I've played earnings for Snapchat before. and been on the bullish side on it, and I've always noticed that they just tank. Company, I mean, really, who still uses Snapchat? I mean, at least that's my take on it. So, oh, there we go. Snapchat. See a lot of puts on this. I would say if I were looking at this Snapchat, probably these are really high risk. So 8.8, under 8 or under 850. They're really cheap because it's such a cheap name. Snapchat, if you look at the big picture, all the way down at the bottom, another one of those market cycle pictures, and it's near the bottom. So earnings have been coming in better than they've expected, but as you can see, expectations for earnings is still negative 15 cents. So net margin still not that good, still negative. So I definitely would agree with the bearishness on that name. What else do I got? Lucid we talked about. Oh no, we talked about RIVN, not Lucid. Lucid, super cheap name as well. Unusual puts, and then some calls. Down under $2, 11 cents each. I mean, I've seen some of these cars around. I don't know, you know, what kind of footing they really have. Seems like they make some nice looking stuff, but yeah, I'd probably say these puts probably have a little bit more of a chance. 11 cents though. Yeah, you could definitely see it push, but if this were to really make some money, it would have to drop by like 30-40% for this to be a solid play. So, you know, sometimes with these, yeah, you can throw $100, throw $200 at it, right? Money you probably would have lost playing in Vegas, sports betting or something like that. You do get a better chance when it comes down to something like this, where you can at least get some sort of gauge of sentiment of big money, and look into that there too. Shopify, we had some more calls come in. 135 strike for the 815.25. Here's another little thing I like to show you guys too. So in here I can put AMD. I put enter. AMD. What else? Shopify. Huh? Those used to work. I'll let Chef know about that. You should be able to put in multiple tickers to view. Let me pull up downloads. Okay. Yes, SMCI, AMD, SMCI. Oh, there we go. You gotta hit enter. So put a space between them, hit enter. Now anything that comes in, let me get the rest of them on here. AMD, SMCI, ANET, Okay. Now, any of these that come in that are today's earnings, they'll come in as we go. Got 5 minutes left. Always interesting to see what finally comes in at the end of it before we get into and see what's going on. Let me know, what are you guys looking at? I am personally bearish on AMD. SMCI looks like it could also drop a little bit too. You know, everything comes down to how they approach their earnings call and how their report is digested. You know, it's not just if it's a beat, but at the end of the day, what their outlook looks like. Comment stacks if you're here watching with me, or you can say earnings season. We'll keep an eye on these. Right now it is 12:55, almost 56. We've got 5 minutes till we close. Some AMD calls sold. You know, sometimes they'll try to get out of them before the earnings call actually happens. Just play a certain side. Make sure that they don't get run through with IV and IV crush. Did anybody get into PCG with us? PCG continued to run up today. It was a Stacks AI call out. Doing pretty well today too. We'll see if it continues. I had one of my positions, got 100% back, or 100% gain on that. I think it still could go a little bit higher. I think we could get up to about 15.5. And remember, this was after poor earnings. So sometimes holding on after the earnings, averaging down after earnings. I mean, you always got to keep an eye out as to what things say. PCG. Let me copy this so I don't have to rewrite it. I saw this today. PCG did have some more calls being purchased, the $17 strike, but there was only 51K. So yesterday, the reason that I stayed in from yesterday was because these came in. The 919 $17 strike, they purchased 1.1 mil, so 35 cents. They're pretty cheap. It's gone down just a little bit today, but ultimately there's still pretty solid sentiment. Like, look at all that. Okay, they've just been purchasing calls since 22nd of last month. Yes, a few puts came in here and there, but it's gone from about right under 14 bucks now to about 15, a little bit higher than that. We also did see 37 mil terms of equity being purchased. So, you know, would I necessarily buy more? If I'm already in the position, probably just write that out. If you wanted another position to take, keep in mind these are fairly high risk just because they still are out of the money. 17 bucks, this still needs to move about $2 right now, and you only have about a month and a few weeks. So the other ones, these 2026, there was one here. Yeah, these one down here, $16 strike, 2026. You know, those positions with a little bit more time, I would say feel a bit safer at this point. It is still a pretty cheap company. Okay, let's see what else. More AMD calls sold. Probably just getting out of that position. 200 is pretty far away, so yeah. All right, we're gonna see closing in a moment. Let's turn over to TradingView. So AMD, the two big ones we'll put up on here, AMD and SMCI. Get an idea what happens right after close. We're gonna see close in just a moment. Ooh, AMD just dropped. Oh, that's just a closing bell drop. SMCI, AMD, on the charts. Oh, let's put that on the minute. Took out liquidity on the lower end, right back to where it was at close. All right, I'm gonna pull up my SMCI. Are you actually gonna run up, or is this just the fake out? AMD earnings. That's what I'm looking up on Twitter. Did SMCI actually report? Nope, nothing yet. Nothing yet. So usually, like I said, usually about 15 minutes till the full report comes out. So we'll see what happens. Go ahead, comment in the chat box for me. Let me know, what is it that you're looking at? Are you bullish or bearish? What names are you in? Are you playing earnings? Are you sitting out? I'd like to know. Nothing so far, at least not on Twitter. Huh? AMD earnings smash, somebody just commented, but bullish on SMCI. Cool. See where it takes us. Only 3 minutes in. It's all just chopping around. All just chopping around. Let me peek over at ANET. Up a little bit. ALAB. Not much movement either. Open door, spelled that wrong. Starting to move up. Snapchat up a little bit. Lucid, no movement really. Upstart, RIVN. Ooh, RIVN's dropped 4%, almost 5%. I'll keep this on the right side. Still no real movement so far. ANET flat. ALAB flat. Open door, not even up a %. Snapchat up 0.5%. Lucid basically flat. Well, Upstart up 2% so far. So we'll see. Ooh, SMCI just saw a drop. Is that the move? Ah, that might be the move. Give it time. It's not always going to be exactly just that move. Sometimes it moves quick one direction and goes the other. So you gotta see. Yeah, if the report's not out yet, it could just be algorithms moving it. Revenue came down. Revenue and EPS both came in lower for SMCI. SMCI revenue estimate was 5.94, came in at 5.8 billion. EPS came in at 31 cents versus the 40-cent estimate. So they missed their earnings. Yeah. What else? AMD, still nothing so far. SMCI down 11%. ALAB up 4%. Arista, ooh, up 7%. EPS beat. Open doors down. Snapchat is flat so far. Lucid is down. Upstart is basically, oh, it's headed down now. Oh, we're just still waiting on AMD. It's the name we all want to see. We're gonna move up or down. Flo said a bit more bearish than bullish, so. SMCI now down 11%. AMD Q2 earnings. Revenue missed by 0.01 billion. EPS is in line. Data center revenue up 57%. 700 million revenue hit from China export curbs. Non-GAAP gross margin 43%. Stock is still up 47% year to date. Q3 guidance 7.7 billion revenue. Still pretty flat so far. Hasn't really moved. Well, consider their revenue missed by 0.01 billion. That's basically flat. So earnings is basically in line. It was 4.48. So basically came in at expectation. We might actually see this stay flat. We actually might just see AMD chop around, maybe go a little higher, maybe come back a little lower, and then close out right where it's at. Meanwhile, let's peek over at some other names. ANET, anything up? There we go, up almost 10%. Arista. Somebody know? Let's see. ALAB, also up about 10%. Open Door, down 12%. Snapchat, nah, that was expected. Snapchat down, down 12%. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And then Lucid down, Upstart down 10%. Wow. RIVN down I think some of these were pretty expected in terms of the movement. Snapchat, Lucid, Rivian, I already said, all expected to go down because they're not making money. SMCI, I mean, the move from MVTS yesterday, which is another semiconductor, they dropped pretty heavy after their report. So you can understand how a little bit of that sentiment from their industry. Ugh, that's ugly. 10%. Yeah, like I said, AMD, the report's out. Looks like it's just gonna chop around today. It's gonna take both sides out. Hold on. Now, some things saying it's still not out, but then there's some reports reporting it. So I don't know if that said 5 minutes. I think it'll make its move in 3 minutes at 1:15. So set my alerts to see what direction it goes. Oh, it'll bring us back. ANET now at 130, up 10%. This was one of the Stacks AI calls, by the way. Beat their EPS. See how high it could go. Probably beat out, go a little higher than 130. We'll see if it breaks out above 130 or not. That's where the line is. SMCI. That looks like it could probably head a little lower, actually. Oh, I guess I need more. Got too many alerts set. All right, minute left for AMD, because it does look like there's no real. Maybe the report that I saw wasn't real. Should be confirmed in a minute. Yeah, they're fake AMD earnings being spread around, so yeah, looks like we gotta wait a little bit. I mean, those earnings saying that they just came in right in line. If they come in line, it might chop around, so I'm still watching what's going on Twitter. Any second now. All right. Thought the move starting. Headed up. First move, not always the right one. Yeah, look, it took out both the top and the bottom of it. Move is still yet to happen. What direction is it going to go? Higher or lower? Make up your mind. Look at that, guys. Just watch. It's going to take out both sides and earnings are going to come right in line and it just stays where it's at. Revenue was higher, EPS was higher, so double beat. See a double beat. 7.7 billion versus 7.42. EPS at 54 cents versus the 40 cents. So decent beat. Decent beat. Question is how much of that is priced in, and remember, double beat does not necessarily mean it's going to go up. How much of this run-up that we've seen so far was already expecting higher earnings? I definitely could see it could probably head back up toward 180. So far, it's up a 1 point, almost 2%, but it's really struggling here. Usually in these types of reports, you see the move come pretty quick, right? You see the influx of money, you know, flood in right away, where people sell off right away. So this might be bad for both sides, both bears and bulls. We might just see it stick around in the middle. Not much so far. ANET now higher. ALAB. Open door. Open's kind of recovering a little bit. Snapchat. I told you Snapchat was gonna tank. Lucid. Upstart. Starts down 11%. RIVN. Down, not as bad anymore. Let's got this one, Clover. That's a cheap stock too. AMD. Two and a half percent, almost 3% move so far. That's really not that much. I'm looking at this. Something else says their EPS was only 48 cents, not 54. So operating income a little bit lower than estimated. Operating margin 0.1 lower than estimated. CapEx 282 mil versus the estimated 176. R&D expenses are higher. Q3 revenue expected to be higher. So a lot of good things in terms of their report, but price is not reacting how bulls want it. Yeah, the high of this move was only what, 2 to 3% anyway. Like I said, AMD might be flat. Not exactly as exciting as I thought it would be. I was expecting to see a bigger candle form from all that. They still do have their earnings call, so obviously that could push things up a little bit more. For example, if you guys looked at how Palantir moved from yesterday. Palantir had this big spike up and then kind of came back down, chopped around, and it wasn't till the morning that it shot all the way up. So who knows what will happen till the morning comes. SMCI now down about 13%. If you guys want to take, when we're done with the live, go take a look back as to what the flow was saying. I put all that up for you guys to see what stacks was showing. I will go back through and double check to confirm if the sentiment that we saw was correct or not. Especially with names like Snapchat. I told you guys Open Doors trading like a meme stock. Snapchat's down 15%. Open Doors chopped around, but still down 13%. Lucid and RIVN both, like I said, not making good money, so not surprised to see these ones down. But RIVN's not down as much as I thought it, not as much as it was. when it dropped. Yeah, SMCI. Oh, SMCI is still going lower. We saw these also too. If you guys peek over at stacks, these puts right here, these guys are about to be close to being in the money. 47. That's gonna be a nice return for those guys. Right? It's the only one that I see highlighted here. And if I go and I check off the buys and sells, you can always go and filter for what the day says. You see how bearish it was in terms of puts and calls and premium were about the same, but you had a lot more volume for that. ANET as well was the one where we had these Stacks AI prints come in earlier in the year. This one aiming for 140. It's at 133 now. So that's what we use Stacks for. For those of you that are just joining us, are uncertain, check it out. Investor Central Club. We're also all over social media. So we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're all over YouTube as well. You can find us on Facebook and TikTok as well if you'd like to, whatever platform it is that you're using. We try to share things as much as we can, but obviously if you want access to this, go check out investorcentralclub.com. Under memberships, you guys can sign up for this. You know, use it to your heart's content. A lot of times what we find is that we're able to peek into what big money and the sentiment is overall for what they're expecting for earnings and things like that. Snapchat down to $8. AMD starting to show some cracks, down a percent now. There we go. SMCI, that $47 put is getting closer and closer. Let me peek at that too. What is their expected return on that? SMCI for the 8th. They got puts for 47. Their expected return for that, yeah, they bought in at, got in at 52 cents. That's going to be almost $3. So what? Multiply up 5, almost 6x for that move. That's what our unusual prints help us see. There we go. AMD starting to move. 169. Looks like the earnings for SMCI says they backed away from a lofty goal. So it's guidance. lower guidance. AMD starting to drop. AMD now down 3%, almost 4%. The position we got in for AMD is projected to be up about 50% from where we got in for those ones that are for the 22nd. We'll see. Again, this still has to hold, still has to stay where it's at for by the time we wake up. A lot of names starting to drop. You know, I think last week with Meta and Microsoft, there was some pretty high expectations for earnings. But a lot of the smaller companies are actually struggling now comparatively. So we still got some names tomorrow: Uber, Shopify, Novo Nordisk, Disney, Geo, and McDonald's. After close, we got AppLovin, Ionic, we got Elf, DraftKings. So we still got some names coming up this week. We got Celsius, Vistra Energy, Sony, Eli Lilly, Trade Desk, Rocket Lab, SoundHound, Pinterest, Atlassian, Take-Two, Twilio, Fubo. Still a lot of names coming up. AMD down just a little bit. Yeah, it's like they beat revenue and EPS, but they still have decent forecasts. Third quarter revenue above the estimates, but the market's reacting poorly to it. Alright, you guys got anything you want me to look over before I log out of here? Anything on the flow? Anything on the charts you want me to pull up? Let me just pull this up real quick. Let's see what Uber looks like for tomorrow. I will say Uber overall, I would probably, you know, just without looking at stacks, without looking at my chart, more bullish than bearish. They seem to be doing pretty well in terms of, you know, people use their app, people use the, you know, Uber Eats and things like that. This 2.67 mil in calls for October, that one definitely stands out to me. We do have these puts for the end of 2027. Ooh, December 2027, $70 puts. Those are pretty pricey. I'm seeing that down under 70. Let's take a look at what the chart says. Uber as the chart. What does it look like right now? Oh, that. Not loving the way that candle looks today. That candle is what we call a doji candle. It's got long wick above and below, open and closed very close to where it was. It also just filled this gap from where what we saw a few days back. So that in itself is a little bit more of a bearish sign. Let's see what we see on the bigger picture though. In terms of what I know from Wyckoff, this looks like it's probably headed up further in due time. Earnings could have it pull back. Retest the lows of this. Retest the supply down here. For October though, yeah. PE ratio is really low on this too. PE ratio only at 15. They're decent net margins. Their financing is pretty high in terms of how much they have. Okay, so let me pull over a graphic for you guys here. So you guys know I like my Wyckoff charts. And it does kind of, which one should I see? Find a better one. Okay. Definitely has signs of this movement here. And so I would say this right here is probably where we're at right now. See it chop around near the upper bound of this. So if I were to stretch it up a little bit more, just some consolidation before we very possibly go higher. But that's more of the long run, bigger picture of Uber. For right now, there is still a risk that it could come back down toward this 82/85 range. It's trading at almost 90 right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Earnings looks like last few earnings they've done pretty well. It was for the longest time a company that wasn't making money, and once they did start making money, the projections were pretty solid for the future. So we'll see what happens with Uber. We'll see tomorrow morning when the info comes in. Yeah, I think those big money calls probably have a decent idea what's going on. All right, if that's it for you guys, let's see where AMD ended up at so far. That's dropping down 5% now almost. So I'm just gonna set my alert. If it goes further, we'll see. We'll hear about it. Just so you guys also know, all of these earnings plays and also what's going on in the markets, we're always talking about them. So for example, we try to get this out on the YouTube before the earnings does happen, but sometimes due to scheduling, due to the fact I have a newborn, it doesn't happen right away. So sometimes on social media, you guys will probably get it right before the earnings actually happens. For those that are in our communities, you'll always see this. We'll have it posted pretty early for you guys so you guys can make decisions. It's going to be the charts. It's going to be what Stacks has to say. It's going to be big money, going to be the unusual options. You guys will get all the ideas of what's going on. You'll not only get my write-up, and you'll also get Max's write-up and what he has to say in terms of the ticker and earnings. What's expected, what the growths are, what the bearish and the bullish sides both have to say. That way you can make an educated decision as to what you're expecting, what you can get in on. You know where your risks are. Versus I know a lot of times some of us just follow people on YouTube, follow people on Twitter blindly. But I will say, while you could make money off those, there are oftentimes it's a little bit more fearful when something goes against you and you start looking for confirmation in other ways. We like to map it out for you as clearly as we can. That way, if you have questions, you can always ask us in our main chat, things like that. And I always try to give you guys some positions, let you guys know, right? Again, Uber, calls, big money calls. These are high risk. AMD, these are the puts, the unusual puts. I told you guys it's high risk, but at least they're not weeklies. So if it makes a move, we can make some money off of it. These are the ones that I ended up getting into, and so we'll see tomorrow what ends up happening with the move. This is our Discord, so keep in mind under our memberships, we've got a Discord membership. We also do have our Stacks membership. The cool thing about Stacks as well is that there is going to be the Discord link in here. You can still get my channel in here as well, so you'll be able to see all of that information that I've posted. So that way, you guys, if you guys are interested, go check it out. There is no current promo going on. We just finished up the July 2025 promo for the yearly annual membership. I will give you guys one right now if you want to use Stacks, STAX 10, Stacks 10, the number 10. You guys can go ahead and use that. You'll get 10% off of your monthly subscription for Stacks. We'll probably be back at this. We have our usual closing bell show tomorrow, Wednesday, at close. Usually around 12:30 we'll jump on here. Let you that's West Coast time, so Pacific time. Spend about half an hour seeing what the final flow is in the markets, and then we'll get into watching what's going on with the earnings. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I will be back at it with you guys tomorrow. Keep an eye out. Make sure you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell. The moment we go live, you guys will be notified on your computer, on your cell phone, whatever it is that you're using. That way we can always get to it and get this information out to you guys so you can make educated decisions as to what you want to play. If you made it this far, comment Stacks in the chat for me. I will see you guys tomorrow. If you want Stacks and want to join, use Stacks 10 for that quick little discount. And I will let you guys know we've got some big stuff coming for you guys. We've got some big announcements coming. Not just WaveX, which is one of our new tools that will be out on here for you guys to use. We've got WaveX coming very, very soon, but we also have some big announcements that we will be making very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. As always, this is Eric here with Investor Central Club, Stacks. I will see you guys in the next one.